Hello and welcome. Today I am going to deliver a lecture on transpiration, its importance and factors affecting rate of transpiration. First of all, let me give you a brief account of transpiration. Transpiration is the process by which the water absorbed by plants through roots is evaporated into the atmosphere through the aerial parts, such as leaves, green shoots, etc., where it is converted from a liquid into a gas through the process of evaporation. Transpiration mainly occurs through small pores known as stomata, which are bordered by guard cells. Plants absorb a large quantity of water from soil by means of roots and root hairs through the process of osmosis, and any dissolved mineral nutrient travel with it through the xylem. However, only a small fraction, that is 1.2% of the absorbed water, is utilized by the plants for their metabolic activities. The remaining 98 to 99% of absorbed water is lost to the atmosphere by transpiration. There are three types of transpiration. Number 1, cuticular transpiration, number 2, lenticular transpiration, and number 3, stomatal transpiration. First of all, let me explain you the cuticular transpiration. The surface of leaves and very often stems are covered by a waxy coating called as cuticle, and the water that evaporates through the cuticle is known as cuticular transpiration, which is about 3 to 10% of the total transpiration. Number 2 is lenticular transpiration. To provide aeration to the inner living tissue at certain places, the cork tissue opens out and forms small slits called lenticels. Transpiration taking place through these lenticels is called lenticular transpiration, which is about 0.1% of total transpiration. Number 3 is stomatal transpiration. Stomata are small openings which are present on lower, upper or both the surfaces of the leaf. Transpiration through stomata is known as stomatal transpiration, which is about 90 to 95% of the total. Now students, let me explain the pathway that water follows from roots to leaves during transpiration. The major path for water movement into plants is from soil to roots. Water enters near the tip of a growing root, the same region where root hairs grow. Water enter the root through root hairs and travel through the cortex and endodermal layers of cells to reach the xylem, where water ascends to the leaf. If not used in the plant, evaporates. Water diffuses into the root, where it can take at least 3 different pathways to eventually reach the xylem, and carries the water to the leaves. Water can move across the root via 3 different pathways. Number 1 is the apoplastic path, where the water molecule stay between cells in the cell wall region and never crossing membrane or entering a cell. Number 2 is the transmembrane path, where water moves from cell to cell across membrane. It leaves one cell by traversing its membrane and re-entering another cell by crossing its membrane. Number 3 is symplastic path, which take the water molecule from cell to cell using the intercellular connections called the plasmodesmata, which are membrane connections between adjacent cells. Once the water molecule have traversed the cortex, it must now cross the endodermis. The endodermis is a layer of cells with a waxy deposition called as Casparian strips that stops the water movement between cells. At this point, the water is forced to move through the membrane of endodermal cells, creating a sieving effect. Once the water leaves the endodermal cells, the water freely enters the xylem cells where it joins the fast moving column of water or transpiration stream headed to the leaves. The xylem is probably the longest part of the pathway that water takes on its way to the leaves of a plant. The mesophyll cells of leaves become turgid due to the excessive amount of absorbed water. At this stage, the turgor pressure of the cells is increased and DPD is decreased, which results in the diffusion of water from mesophyll cells into the intercellular spaces. The intercellular spaces now become saturated with water and their water vapor pressure become greater than the water vapor pressure of atmosphere. Simultaneously, the DPD of the intercellular spaces is decreased much than the DPD of water vapor present in the atmosphere. Thus, the water from the intercellular spaces diffuses into the atmosphere in the form of vapor through stomata, lenticels and cuticles. During transpiration, the column of water is being pulled by transpiration at the leaf surface. When this pulling of water out of the plant becomes greater than the ability of the water molecule to stay together, the column of water will break and leading to the filling of xylem vessel or trachea with air known as cavitation. Plants avoid cavitation or minimize its damage through several mechanisms which are as: xylem cells possess pits or tiny holes that allow liquid water transport but do not allow the gas bubble to escape. This structural characteristic helps keeps the gas bubble in one cell so the other xylem cell can continue to transport water up to the plant. The gas bubble redissolves into the liquid water when the pulling of water through the xylem is reduced, such as during the night when water is not being pulled out of leaf via transpiration because the stomata are closed. Xylem cells with narrower diameter compared to those with wider diameter avoid cavitation, because the column of water in a cell with a narrow diameter is better able to resist bubble formation or rupture. Now let's discuss the various factors affecting the rate of transpiration. These factors are classified into two types. First are plant-based factors, which include: number 1, stomata. When stomata are open, transpiration rates increases. When they are closed, transpiration rate decreases. Number 2 is the boundary layer. The boundary layer is a thin layer of still air hugging the surface of the leaf. The larger the boundary layer, the slower the rate of transpiration. Number 3 is cuticle. The cuticle is the waxy layer that is present on all the above ground tissue of a plant and is hydrophobic or water repelling. Therefore, water does not move through it very easily. Thicker the cuticle layer on the leaf surface, slower the transpiration rate. Sun leaves have much thicker cuticle than shade leaves. B are the environmental factors, which include: number 1, relative humidity. Lower the relative humidity, the less moist the atmosphere, thus greater the driving force for transpiration. When RH is high, the atmosphere contains more moisture, reducing rate of transpiration. Number 2 is temperature. As temperature increases, the water holding capacity of the air increases sharply. Warmer air holds more water, thus increasing rate of transpiration, and cooler air will decrease the driving force for transpiration. Number 3 is soil water. Plant with adequate soil moisture will normally transpire at high rates because the soil provides the water to move through the plant. Plants cannot continue to transpire if the soil is very dry. Number 4 is the light. Stomata are triggered to open in light so that the carbon dioxide is available for the light dependent process of photosynthesis. Stomata are closed in the dark in most plants. Very low level of light at dawn can cause stomata to open so they can access carbon dioxide for photosynthesis as soon as the light hits their leaves. Stomata are most sensitive to blue light, the light predominating at sunrise. Number 5. Wind. Wind can alter the rate of transpiration by removing the boundary layer. Wind increases the movement of water from leaf surface when it reduces the boundary layer, because the path for water to reach the atmosphere is shorter. Now let us move to the significance of transpiration in plants. Transpiration is of immense importance to plants and can be described as: number 1, gaseous exchange. Transpiration is essential in the life of land plants. It helps in the absorption of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere during photosynthesis, as the opening of stomata in daytime facilitates gaseous exchange. Number 2, cooling effect. The leaves absorbs the radiant energy. Some of the radiant energy is utilized in photosynthesis. Rest is converted into heat energy, resulting in an increase in leaf temperature. However, transpiration brings down their temperature, thus inducing cooling effect. Number 3, effect on mineral transport. Mineral salts remain dissolved in the soil water and are absorbed by the roots. Minerals that are absorbed and accumulated in the xylem duct of the root move up and are distributed in the plants by the transpiration stream. Number 4, effect on water movement. The absorbed water is transported from roots to leaves through the xylem vessel, which is greatly influenced by transpiration pull. Water loss due to the transpiration results in the development of low water potential in the leaf tissue. Thus, water moves from the xylem vessel to the leaf cells and helps in the ascent of sap. Number 5, maintenance of turgidity. Transpiration maintains an optimum degree of turgor in cells. Under favorable conditions, plants absorb excess amount of water, which is given off by transpiration to maintain the optimum turgor for better growth. Number 6, increase of taste of fruits. The solutes inside the cell become more concentrated when transpiration is rapid. The concentration of sugar solution in the cells of fruits increases and fruits taste sweeter. Now a question arises: why is transpiration called as necessary evil? Curtis has said that transpiration is a necessary evil because a large amount of absorbed water is lost during transpiration, which is harmful to plants. Unnecessary wastage of energy takes place during the process of water absorption, which is lost due to transpiration. When the rate of transpiration is high in plants growing in soil deficit in water, an internal water deficit develops in plants, which may affect metabolic process. Many xerophytic plants undergo structural modifications and adaptations to check transpiration. Considering both the beneficial and harmful effects of transpiration, it may be concluded that transpiration is definitely advantageous in spite of its harmful features. Now we will move to the antitranspirants. Antitranspirants are the materials or chemicals which decrease the water loss from plant leaves by reducing the size and number of stomata. Nearly 99% of the water absorbed by plants is lost in transpiration. There are 4 types of antitranspirants, which are: number 1, stomatal closing type. Number 2 is the film forming type. Number 3 is the reflectance type. Number 4 is the growth retardant. Stomatal closing type. Most of the transpiration occurs through the stomata on the leaf surface. Some fungicides like phenyl mercuric acetate and herbicides like atrazine in low concentration serve as anti-transparents by inducing stomatal closing. Number 2 is the film forming type, plastic and waxy material which form a thin film on the leaf surface and results into physical barrier, for example ethyl alcohol. Number 3 is the reflectance type. They are the white material which form a coating on the leaves and increases the leaf reflectance by reflecting the radiation, water vapor gradient, and thus reducing transpiration. Application of 5% choline spray reduces transpiration losses. Number 4 is the growth retardant. These chemicals reduce shoot growth and increase root growth and thus enable the plants to resist drought. They may also induce stomatal closure. Psychocell is useful for improving water status of the plant. Xerophytes have special adaptation to reduce the rate of transpiration. They have thick wax cuticle in order to reduce the evaporation. They have reduced leaf area, for example needles. They have hairy leaves that trap a layer of saturated air. They also have sunken stomata. Rolled leaves. This reduces the area exposed to the air and keeps the stomata on the inside, so increasing water vapor inside the roll. Now the adaptation to increase the water uptake in xerophytes. They have a deep extensive root system to maximize the water uptake. There is an accumulation of solutes in the root system to reduce the water potential, so making the water potential gradient from the soil to the root cells steeper. Some very shallow roots to absorb dew which condenses on the soil at night. Now let's move to the theories of ascent of sap. The upward movement of water from the root to the aerial parts of the plant body is called ascent of sap. It is fascinating to understand how water moves in a plant to such a great height, such as 400 feet or above. Various theories have been predicted in this regard, but all the theories were rejected. Only cohesion tension and transpiration pull theory is the most important and widely accepted. Now the cohesion tension theory. This theory was proposed by Dickson and Joly in 1894 and has been supported by Curtis and Clerk in 1951, Leavitt in 1969. The theory assumes that water is pulled from up but not pushed from below. The theory has two essential features such as cohesion of water and adhesion between water and xylem tissue. Number 2, transpiration pull. Now first of all let's explain the cohesion of water and adhesion between water and xylem tissue. Cohesion is the intermolecular attraction between similar molecules. The water molecules remain attracted by the cohesive forces and cannot be easily separated from one another. Further, there is an attraction between water molecules and inner wall of xylem ducts. Then water column cannot be pulled away from the wall of xylem ducts due to the strong adhesive and cohesive properties of water, and the continuity of water column is maintained from roots to leaves. Transpiration in leaves creates tension in the mesophyll cells. Because of this tension, water is literally being pulled up from roots into the leaves, helped by cohesion, the pull between individual water molecules due to hydrogen bonds, and adhesion, the stickiness between water molecules and hydrophilic cell wall of plants. The mechanism or water flow works because of water potential. Water flows from high to low potential and the rules of simple diffusion. The forces acting against the cohesive forces of water and which try to break up the water column in plants are the weight of the water column itself, the resistance encountered by water in crossing the tissue of the roots, the stem and mesophyll cells of the leaf. Now number 2 is the transpiration pull. In plants, water is sucked up by the stem from the roots where it evaporates at the leaves. The upward movement of water is accounted for by a mechanism called transpiration pull that involves the evaporation of water from the leaves. The suction force which pulls water in the leaves by transpiration and up in the xylem vessel is termed as transpiration pull. As water is lost in the form of water vapor to atmosphere from the mesophyll cells by transpiration, a negative hydrostatic pressure is created in the mesophyll cells, which in turn draw water from the veins of the leaves. The negative tension is then gradually transmitted downwards via xylem tissue of the leaf, stem and finally to the roots. As a result, there is a continuous upward movement of the water column in the plant. 1 atmosphere pressure can raise the water to a height of more than 32 feet. So, a tension of 13 atmosphere is needed to raise the water to a height of 416 feet. Scientists have measured this tension to be more than 75 atmosphere in case of trees with more than 400 feet in height. To conclude, let me once again highlight what transpiration is. It's the loss of water from a plant in the form of water vapor. Water is absorbed by roots from the soil and is transported as a liquid to the leaves via xylem. In the leaves, small pores allow water to escape as a vapor and carbon dioxide to enter the leaf for photosynthesis. Of all the water absorbed by plants, less than 5% remains in the plant for growth and storage following growth. That's all. Thank you.